Welcome to Making Sense of AI, where we unravel the complexities of artificial intelligence, exploring its profound impact on our world. In each episode, we delve into the tension and promise of this transformative technology, seeking to uncover how AI is reshaping ethics, business, education, and beyond. Join us as we navigate the challenges and opportunities of the AI revolution, offering a hopeful vision for the future, brought to you by Turner and Binova AI. Joining us from Bern, Switzerland, Mario Sgarrella is the founder of Unpluggo, Switzerland's first digital wellness center, and you are an advocate for digital well-being. Good morning, Mario. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, Making Sense of AI. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning to you and to everybody listening.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if our listeners on the show are like, why would we have somebody on digital well-being be on a podcast about making sense of AI? But I could not be more convinced that you are one of the best people we could possibly have on the show.
You're always way too kind.
I'm serious. I could not believe more in what you do. So please tell us, you've had a beautiful career. You've been in marketing, PR, but also lobbying. You really are focused on the heavy usage of social media. You want to understand why we're doing it. And I want you to tell the story. Tell us a little bit about why you started Unpluggo and what it's all about.
Well, there's really two things that I think really changed my life. I started very early. My first student job in Maastricht was for the Italian market for Google search appliances. Before the whole cloud, Google used to make, machines that you could purchase and search your documents and stuff. And I saw that the industry then went into, communication, more marketing, more political communication, lobbying, and more creative. And I saw that industry changing dramatically from one I perceived as very creative. You had to think of so many different ways of creating into something where nowadays you literally have a duopoly of Meta, Facebook, and Google that control all your digital presence online. And we are seeing that in AI as well, how they're going massively into that market as well. And you basically end up having to pay them to be relevant at all. You have to do some paid advertisement, whether on Meta platforms, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp now, and on Google to be at all present online and be visible. And everybody's fighting for this attention that we call, in fact, the attention economy, but that's another story. And then second thing, when my son was born, 2020, I really started realizing how at work for marketing, I was use social media. And then at home, I would still be on my social media. And if I would use some persuasion tools and mechanism and micro-targeting on social media, I will be subject of that as well. And when you have kids, it's all about the kids' products that suddenly pop up on your Facebook feed, like Pampers and napkins and kid beds and kid toys and you name it. And then I started questioning the whole thing, and I started reading a lot. And there's actually a lot of research ongoing on what is the moderate use of social media, of the internet, and what is not, what is like too much, and what the effects are on our psychology, on our cognitive development, on our social capabilities, EQ, and interaction and socializing and physical. So many aspects you can go into it. And a very serious research ongoing in the field and a lot of interesting books on the subject, a lot of experts out there that try to really promote, a more balanced and mindful use of all these digital technologies and tools, including artificial intelligence, and now we have on our fingertips.
Yes. You said some really beautiful things, this attention economy, and you said that's another story. But I just, what I find so fascinating about your career, what I really admire is that I can imagine that when you're going from a career at Google in digital marketing to advocating for digital well-being, you might think it doesn't make sense, but to me, it makes absolute sense. You've seen something where you perhaps think, hey, there are other ways in which we can do this as well. So besides the birth of your son, what do you think is a larger impact on society if we don't develop these better habits?
the iPhone, the technology and the software that goes gone with it has developed so quickly and has convinced everybody that they are essential, that we all need to have social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then I became an Instagram, and then became a TikTok, and what next? That we master it in using the best persuasion technology and the best persuasion theories that are out there, and they convince us that they're essential, but they're not. For 2,000 years or more, we have been living without. And the issue is really about like how do we understand what is really important for us, for our goals, for our values, for our personal goals, professional goals, and use that as the best and let go everything else. This is what digital minimalism. If you are a photographer, if you're a creative, absolutely Instagram is crucial to you. If you're making videos, TikTok is crucial for you. But if that doesn't bring you anything, and we actually see a lot of research that people actually feel more sad and more depressed and socialize less and actually feel worse after using some of these tools because that doesn't bring them anything, on the contrary, then you should just let it go. And that's the principle of digital minimalism. And that's something I truly believe in. And it's not being anti-tech. It's not saying iPhone is bad. It's really about saying the way you use it can be bad if it really is not aligned to your goals in life and to your values.
That's such a beautiful statement. And I could not agree with you more. It's so hard when these tools are made to be addictive. And we see that with artificial intelligence as well. So when you think about young kids, your son, kids at school right now growing up, I have empathy in my heart for them. Also because of what you've said now, that it does make us sadder. So how do we find ways in which to integrate AI in a healthy way in schools? We've worked in tech for such a long time. We've also done other things. I know that. But what I think is so interesting is everyone's obsessed with the tech. I don't care about the technology that much. It's what we do with it and how we use it.
Technology is as useful as what you do with it, and not more or less. And I think education is key for me. And I want my son to live in a world when he has proper education and proper understanding of what artificial intelligence is, what it can do, what it cannot do, how to look at it critically, how to use it critically, how to use it safely, and how to really understand it in and out. So that, I mean, I'm not saying he has to be a artificial intelligence programmer himself and trainer, but really understand it. Eric Schmidt, the founder of Google, said one something very interesting. Internet is the first thing that humanity has built and that it does not understand. For some people, they're also cars. Not everybody understands how a car works. But I think the artificial intelligence is even more true. We are using all of a sudden, for a couple of years only, ChatGPT and the likes without really understanding how they work. And we need to. And that's where education comes in, where that's where like a curiosity and critical use of these tools comes in. I've seen in academic contexts, for example, at universities, students using it very passively, and then they are questioned on every single thing that they do. So if you put a query into ChatGPT, that's a very simple example. Everybody now is doing it. Um, there is one way of just accepting what it is, what comes out, and copying and pasting what's supposed to be your essay. And another way is looking at it a bit critically, going double check the information, look for the right sources because ChatGPT is not giving you the right sources or is making up biography sometimes. And develop some understanding. Where is he finding this information? Can I find the same information somewhere else? Is there a contrasting point of view? Is it somebody that is thinking the opposite of what ChatGPT is telling me? Can I put those two together and make my own theory or my own, answer to the question, to the query? It's really important to me. And everybody that is doing education in the schools, in any contest or how we use it. I think we are in an age nowadays where it's going to be more and more important, deep understanding, argumenting, debating based on what the technology, what artificial intelligence is popping up for you.
I agree. So if we go on that line of thought, being able to critically think, being able, this is what I love about what you stand for as well. It's teaching people to make more time to do things they love with the people they love. And you and I both share a background of having worked, lived, grown up in many different countries. And I think when you have this richness of taking the time to be curious about other cultures and being open and being inquisitive, that's what makes life so deep and rich. But on the flip side, Mario, we know that there is this desire to be seen online by young people, but by everybody, entrepreneurs, by
Mhm.
artists, but and it is real because it's where business is done. It's almost a new market. It is a new marketplace, and it's also a validation tool. So how do we shift that mindset that's and by the way, side note, I think this will happen over time. I think we're going to peak to this globalization and slowly move back to community based living, but we can talk about that another time. But in the meantime, how do we find healthy and structured ways to teach young people and anyone really, to also build that life offline, especially in an age where the systems are set up to be addictive and to consume, yeah, to make us want to live there.
Yeah, yeah, no, very good question. On the one side, there's the theory, and on the other side, there's very practical and tips you can give. I do workshops around schools, institutions, and companies, and I start the workshop by saying, now we're gonna do the classical digital detox. I'm gonna take away your phones, your tablets, your computers for the rest, the next 5, 6 hours, the day, half a day, whatever it is. But before you do this, you gotta inform the people that are important to your life that you're not gonna be reachable like they expect you to for the next few hours. Who do you inform? And that's a beautiful way also to introduce themselves and understanding their social circle, their social capital. And what you understand from this exercise, often it's just like your spouse, your partner, maybe your children, maybe your employer, your best friend, your mom in my case. Otherwise, she freaks out if she can't find me immediately reachable on WhatsApp. And yeah, and then you realize these are the people for which it's worth to be constantly connected or to manage the regular connectivity. Everybody else that sends us an email, that writes us on a messenger, on WhatsApp, is not, and we should get into the mindset, is not expecting an immediate reply. And this already freaks out and makes people realize, oh, wow, actually, I don't have to be constantly online to respond to every single email, every single message I receive immediately while I'm eating, while I'm walking, while I'm sleeping, while I'm making love with my partner, while everything, because it's actually that's not what the other person even expects. And getting to this little mindset makes you live a more peaceful, controlled, stress-free life, and on the other hand, really able to have a life skill that is managing expectations of other people. And for young people, this is going to be crucial in their social life, in their professional life, if they want to become successful. I believe, and I think they believe as
So you believe, first of all, thank you for taking us through these beautiful steps. One, move the devices away from the space. Two, but before you do that, who do you need to inform? And the funny thing is here, it's like a handful of people that you love, your partner, your kids, your family. I think that that's so structured and stunning. Your team, and maybe, communicate when you're on available for them or not.
And as you can see, it's very personalized. There's no one solution fits all. Everybody has different social capital, social networks, need for profession, need for what you said, showing what it does on a different platform. But you can't just try to do it all, and you'll feel absolutely stressed and mind blown. You need to really pick and choose because there's so much out there, right? Pick and choose what really brings more value. And it's a trial and error. It's like testing something, get out of something else, and so on and so forth. Same with with any tool, with any software that we have always been used to.
Yes, absolutely. But so then here's my follow-up question on that, right? So a big part of what we've done at Binova has always been to actually get the AI mentors. So we've been building AI mentors since 2019, getting them to encourage the student to go offline. So for example, Mario, the AI mentor would say something like, "Hey, how are you feeling today?" And if the student responds and says, I'm kind of feeling down, the first thing would be, well, why don't you go take a walk? Or call your best friend, or listen to this piece of classical music. Because we know, we have research that being in nature, speaking to people we love, listening to music we love, all these things make our neural network perform better and relax. It doesn't happen online. So in our case, we have trained the models to encourage students to move away from the computer. But what we see really is that that goes against some of the dominant players in the market, number one. And number two, it also goes against the narrative that people need to learn how to engage with AI. And I do agree with that. AI is not going anywhere. We will have AI teachers. You know, the biggest market is for AI girlfriends. How heartbreaking is that? That means we have a generation of boys and men that are perhaps hesitant to connect with their, with a physical human. And in a way, that to me is also a larger statement on society. So my question for you, Mario, is on the one hand, we encourage, and I am with you, we encourage people to step away from the computer to reconnect with themselves. But on the other hand, we know that even a part of the future way of working and the future way of being is going to be through that AI engagement. So what can we do about that? How do we merge the two?
I'm convinced that exactly in that environment that you're predicting, and is slowly coming into play, those are gonna feel at best with themselves and are really gonna succeed in life are those that are able to balance the two and to balance an offline, an online, a personal, a private, and a social life. And this is going to be skill number one. And you already see some of the most successful leaders in the tech companies, in the biggest companies, in the biggest thought leaders. They are really wary of what they do with their time. They're really conscious about how much time they spend online. They know that the best of you comes when you are bored, when you're alone in nature, when you have nothing that is constantly pinging and ringing and stimulating you, and actually have time to think and to come up with the next biggest idea and the next biggest startup. Famous Bill Gates taking 1 week off and going in a cottage with no research whatsoever for his think weeks. And you have so many examples like that. And this is gonna be a great skill. So if a student nowadays is already empowered with this skill and understands that, he's gonna have a great life. It doesn't mean again being against the technology, but it means getting out of the narrative that is dominated by players. They want us to spend time online because that's how they make money. That's at the end of the day. They are for profit. We need to make money. I need you to spend as much time as possible and interact with this platform as much as possible. So I have as many data as possible on you so that I can do target advertising for you. Is the old story of the attention economy. That you as a user, you can get out of the narrative and say, well, that's making money for you, but that's not making money for me. I want to make money and I want to be successful and I'm going to put everything in place for my success. And that skill is going to be crucial.
I think that's so beautiful. So let me zoom in on something you said, which I think is critical for listeners. You said it also means balancing. You said four pillars. I heard the online world, the offline world, and I think you said the personal and private, if I'm correct.
Well, it's like a matrix of the online, the totally online, the totally offline that I believe you can do consciously and very, very segmented. So when I'm online, I'm online. When I need to be on Instagram, I'm on Instagram. Nobody's distracting me. But at the same time, if I'm with my kids in the forest, I'm not gonna check my Instagram. Okay. So there's two. And then the three, let's say, social layers that we have, which is the individual self, the company, the social network you're in, and then the society at large. So if you want, it's three layers with the two elements really in a matrix way. So when I'm society at large, for example, there's a way to interact with society at large online, and there's a way to interact with society at large at a concert offline, totally offline. When I'm in a concert, I'm totally in. I'm enjoying the music. I'm not going to start checking my work email. And this is very important. And the same at every layer. So when I'm with my family at the table, with my office workers having a coffee, I'm not going to suddenly start doing something else and checking what my mom is writing me. I'm really with my colleagues in that moment. I'm really with my family in that moment. So crucial.
I could not agree with you more. I think this might be also, I genuinely believe this could be attributable in part to the way in which you and I have both worked and lived, though, this desire to do this one-on-one connection. And I think a simple tip as well, and I'd love to hear if you agree with me, is, just move your phone away from your vision. It's so funny that even just seeing it, see, if you don't see it, it already makes a huge difference. But here's a question. I have two questions that I'm dying to ask you. The first one is, you do workshops on this, you do trainings on this. Tell us about that. What does that mean, and how do people benefit? How do they get in touch with you? I mean, what you're doing is so important. I am such a fan of your work. So how can people benefit from the work you do? And what does it look like to work with you, for example?
Great. If you're part of an institution, a company, a school, a parents association, anything really, I can come in and really bring this basic awareness of what is the attention economy, how our devices are built, our social media are built to really make us addicted to them, or at least spend as much time as possible on it. And then really discuss openly what I said before. What is your social network that you really want to cultivate? What are your goals that you want to achieve to AI, to social media, to your use of technology? What are your purposes? And then what can be personalized solutions for you to live a better tech work life balance, really? And often it's very personal. I have people that say, I'm totally addicted to the news. I can't stop clicking on my news app or opening a news browser, news website, and makes me anxious. And there is already an issue, right? If you yourself realize, okay, I'm more anxious because of all the bad news around the world, then what can you do about it? Others are totally addicted to work emails, and they are on holidays and they keep checking their work emails, and they create conflict with their partners, and then they don't enjoy the holidays, and then they come back and they still have emails to read and to do anyway. And that's a basic issue of the email management. Others see their partner or their best friend totally addicted and want to do something about it, or they're wasting too much time on TikTok and they've stopped doing their best hobby that they were doing, or anything. I've helped from people in burnout situations where part of the strategy is also to, okay, what can we eliminate that gives you this stress and these burnout feelings as a bit of burnout prevention, up to teenage girls that have received cyber mobbing, or they've done, the classical example, so common, and that we still not doing anything about it, is you are a young girl, you have a boyfriend for 1 year, you send him a nude photo, he still has the photo, and when the year after your break up, and is some of these guys are using nude photos, are creating now fake news and deep nudes, what are called now. And this is just heartbreaking for young girls that have all their life in front and that face mobbing and cyber mobbing at the age of 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. And that destroys their lives. And there's so much a sense of responsibility and responsible use, ethical use that we all have to instill in our daily life and our next generation, really.
Yeah, and I hear you say this. You said you work with schools and universities as well, or I think you said schools and institutions. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really, any form of institution, NGO, association, group of people. It's also a great team building activity, right? To understand how to work better, interact better through the digital technology that we use. And often we expect a reply immediate from somebody else. We don't, and the other person's like, no, actually, I didn't know. You start questioning our communication frequency and devices, right?
Yeah, perfect. So I think that that's stunning, and I would love to hear your thoughts on one. Yes, people must get in touch with you, and schools must understand, institutions must understand what this healthy behavior looks like. I think in 5 years max, we're all going to look back and be like, what were we even doing? You and I, were there. I know we share this sentiment with a lot of people, but what are we doing? When are we using technology and when are we not? So, what would be your practical takeaway to educators, for example, right? Because this is having a massive effect on society. You just gave us an example that affects teenagers. What can educators do better? Because on one hand, they're being forced to implement technology that they might not understand.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, they're trying to prepare their students for the future where these technologies will be used. So, practically, what would a day at school look like if you're focusing on both digital minimalism and teaching digital skills? And by the way, I thought it was so funny when we went on this global spree of teaching everybody how to code. It's completely ridiculous. Let's break it down. What does a good day look like now at a school where we're taking into account both digital minimalism and we're taking into account healthy behaviors with AI because they'll be part of the future?
I think is that opening up that conversation. We need to have that conversation really open. Okay, what do you want to achieve in life? What are your values? What are your goals? What passions you right now? And what technology and how that can we use it to achieve that and to support you in that? Huh? A classical example is a kid that, I don't know, likes swimming, right? That's a totally offline. I hope you can bring your phone yet in the pool, well, almost with your wearable. But it should not use of technology or AI or whatever should not be a detriment of that passion and should actually complement it. So he should have time for that. And then if there is anything online that helps him, like coaching or watching videos of swimmers giving tips, that's all fine because that's contributing to his passion. But wasting time on anything else is really not contributing to his life. Having that conversation open is very cool. Saying it is very important for an educator, especially on artificial intelligence. So what are you trying to achieve? What do you want to do with that goal in mind, with an essay you have to write or with the research you have to do? And then how can you look at AI critically? How can you use AI tools critically and mindfully to help you achieve that goal and not to substitute you in achieving that goal or use it passively. We know, and the research is very clear, that any software, any piece of social media is useful when you're very active on it. When you're just passively consuming, that's not bringing you anywhere. And that's what I think we need to teach in the school. Having those conversations, having this basic understanding of what is your value, what you want to achieve, and what aligns to that and drop everything else. I think this is really important. Coding, you made that example. There are some kids that are passionate, want to do that as a job, fine. But as you say, teaching everybody is like when you buy a car, you don't have to learn how the car is being built, right? You have to actually critically know how to use the car, and you don't just give it to kids. Kids is a beautiful parallel, right? Oh, I want my kid to be very savvy online, so at 3 years old, I give him an iPad. No, you're not giving your kid the car at 3 years old because you want them to drive very well at 18 years old. What you do, you first tell no for a certain time when we know it's bad for you. You can't drive a car until you're 15, 16. Then you slowly start sitting on the lap of your dad a little bit, Then you go to a course. Then you learn the basics and the theory and the practice and the first aid and all that comes with it. And then you get a call. And it's the same with social media, with technology, with AI for me. We need to get that mindset of first we get trained on it and then we really use it and not the other way around.
But Mario, here's my question on that. And again, I want to iterate. I could not agree with you more. I love everything you're saying, but I still want to ask this critical question about the way in which our human brain actually operates, right? Because I agree with you. And discipline for me is the key to everything. I wake up early every morning, I have my routine because to produce the way I produce books, music, an AI startup, like your brain has to really be functioning at a high level. And that to me is also always discipline. And I know how to work.
Sleep, eat well,
Sleep.
drink a lot.
Exactly, exactly. These are
That's the basic.
critical thing. Yeah, they're basic, but we mostly don't do them. So one, we absolutely need to reiterate these skills, but two, these devices are, and I know we spoke about this a little bit at the beginning, but these devices are made to be addictive. How do we remind and encourage people to remember that you use it when you need it and don't be afraid to be bored? Don't be afraid to work with your brain. It is exciting to solve a problem with your human brain. How do we remind them of that, Mario?
Well, for example, when I talk to teenagers, young people is I don't go preaching. You can't. It doesn't work. You can preach. But I'm astonished about they hate, especially the young generation. They hate to be manipulated. As soon as they found out that there's somebody actually behind that TikTok and then Instagram platform trying to manipulate them, they started looking at it in an all different way. And sometimes it's just awareness of that, they are designed to make you addicted. This is how they're designed. And I go into details on the tricks that they use. And just that realization for many of them is like, they like to be empowered. They don't like to have that manipulation. And second, I'm astonished how so many of them are very critical of their parents, for example, or their grandparents of how they use technology. And when they have empowered to know and tell their parents, their grandparents that they don't want to see them all the time on their phone and they want to actually spend some time together, it's powerful. So it's actually investing in the conversation. They become the ambassador in their family. So awareness, education, and empowered with these little tools and tricks that they can go and bring to other people, to their best friend, to their friend that is so mobbed, to their friend that is so they're not going out anymore together and doing something, to their grandparents that want to take photo of every single thing that they do. And and I think it's really reverting that preaching, this is bad for you, ta, 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 ta.
That's beautiful. Putting the power back into the hands of the user, I think is going to be a critical step moving forward.
And I think you see that with AI as well. People are sick of just using it passively. They start wanting to develop themselves, to see what's behind it, to use tools that are a bit more transparent than the black boxes, to start having an education in it and wanting to go for a course that teaches them what is really all the aspects of AI. And just because generative AI is the tip of the iceberg of a much bigger developments out there. And you actually, as a young person, should think, what jobs can that stuff create for me? Where can I find success? What opportunities can I find in all these things coming up? And not just how can I consume it passively to cheat on an exam.
No, 100%. And when we see that type of behavior, how can I use it to cheat or how can I use it to get this done faster? That's also a red flag. That means that the brain isn't stimulated to solve the problem. But every kid, every human that I've ever met has something that they're curious about, has something that they love or that they feel like, gosh, if I could just spend more time on that. What I do like about AI is that it does give us that power back to spend more time on the problems we want to solve, on the things that we love that make us excited.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is another little tip, for example. You can start a conversation with anybody saying, let's see how much time you spent last week on your phone, and you see that on every device, say 3 hours and a half, 5 hours, to say, okay, now if I give you those 5 hours, what would you do with life? Sure. And it's beautiful conversation. You find out about that person's passion, motivation, or just willing to relax, whatever. And just thinking that the 5 hours can be backed to your control and not to the control of the device opens up a world of opportunities, and people put back some priorities in their life that aligns more with what they really want to do and what inspires them rather than passively consume.
Absolutely. And I think let's do this one more time. How can people get in touch with you, Mario? What's the best way for them to get more of your work, which I think is life changing? What is the best way?
Yeah, if you really want to bring some digital education awareness, digital wellness to your institution school, just check out. I've started my company is called Unpluggo, unpluggo.com or unpluggo.ch, and there you find my telephone number and my email. And I think it's important to have these conversations.
Wonderful. So I absolutely think please make sure you look Mario up. We will obviously provide all the links as well, but your work is powerful. It's going to be more and more critical in the future of work, in the future of education, and in just the way we engage with our digital world. Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you to you. All the best, everybody, and thank you for your congratulations. All the best.
Wonderful to have Mario Sgarrella on the call, the founder of Unpluggo. Please check his fantastic work out. And thank you so much for joining us.
See you soon. Thank you.
Joining us all the way from Italy, we have with us Massimiliano Turazzini. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
We're so glad to have you. You've had such a multifocal career, as you call it, with expertise across a variety of domains. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and how that is currently shaping your career?
Okay. So I started my career as a software engineer. I am passionate about technology, and I'm passionate also in startups. I've made several in my life, even when they didn't call a startup like today. And one of the most significant in my life was energy startup. We were the first selling in our country, in Italy, energy as a private company, electricity and natural gas. And in that domain, I was exploring the technological part behind selling energy, which is essentially a lot of data. At that time, we had not such technology. We had not a lot of compute power as we have today, but we had a huge problem or opportunity with data. So I got passionate about machine learning, about algorithm to make sense of this data. So then I created a startup to help the multi-utilities to manage their process and so on. And in that period, in 11 years, that software house became one of the most important here in my country, so that we sold at a certain point. When I realized the possibilities of AI, and now we are in the 2016 more than, I started to invest in startups that were focusing on AI. So from healthcare to fashion to the first conversational bot, because we started using OpenAI in 2018, ChatGPT 1.0, and it was fascinating. It was incredible. So the journey, my real journey in startup in AI started there. I was fascinated by natural language process and all the opportunities that it could bring to the world.
I love hearing you say that. GPT 1.0, we started GPT 2.0 just a year after you in 2019. It's so fun to look at the technology then and look at it now. So you've been in the space for a while. How and what changes have you noticed in the landscape and the promises and developments of artificial intelligence?
So an anecdote is that I was in Silicon Valley in 2017. I was talking with a young entrepreneur of a video game company, and he showed me what they were doing with the non-player games in the video games. So you know that characters that act by themselves and you see going around the video game. And he was telling me, here, Max, one day these capabilities will be multiplied by 1 million, and we can create non-playing characters that act in real life, not only in video game. So that was my spark, because trying to apply a technology to the daily routine of people is something huge. And I think that generative AI has this capability. Why? Because it took the domain maybe of language. So we are, as human, we are not only the being able to talk now in the world, also technology is able to talk, to communicate, to create images, to understand images, to understand sound and so on. This probably will need to reshape everything that we know and see it in a different light. So I don't know how many problems AI will solve, but I know that the scope is very, very wide.
That's incredible. And I think also we know how fast it's going. So given the fact that it is that exponential increase, those exponential changes, where do you envision the possibilities for, well, we can absolutely talk about Italy. I'm happy to hear where you see the possibilities in your country. And what about beyond Europe and globally? What excites you most about the developments?
So there are two sides I'm focusing on now. One is entrepreneurship and the way we create the business, and the other is in education. Let me start from the first. I've lived in Italy since I was born, but I traveled a lot. And I see a lot of differences between this country and the others. We are, I think, very innovative. We have a lot of pro as average Italian entrepreneur. Sometimes we miss the focus on technology when this is communication technology. So sometimes the digital side of the process of the company is delegated to the IT guys. Now, with AI, we have the opportunity, and I see a lot of curiosity from manager, from entrepreneur in this technology because shifting their curiosity about the digital world. This can be very disruptive because if you put together some million of brilliant inventors, probably you can innovate a lot. But they need to understand, not only in Italy, all over the world, what the capabilities of this new technology are. The same on the education side. I have two teenagers living with me sometimes, two sons. And I see how, especially generative AI, can impact on the way they learn. And this can be totally disruptive in the way we have created education in the last 2 centuries. So I'm very curious about it. I'm very scared about it because generative AI can also be a place where people slip at the wheel, I think is the way to say in English. But it's very important to start from teaching and using generative AI since you are 14, 15 in your study routine.
Right, because you've mentioned that you also do workshops. You were telling me offline a little bit about the fact that you are now also working in schools and doing type of educational work to make sure. Tell us a little bit more about that. How do you envision the future of AI affecting education?
Okay, let's start from the workshop side because it's a strange things that happened in my life last fall when I decided to start to become an AI trainer. An AI trainer that doesn't mean to teach people how to create AI, but how to use AI effectively in the organization or in the education. In this journey that I've made also with some YPOers, I'm part of this organization of entrepreneurs. One of us founded an institute specifically for teaching AI from CEO to CEO. So with that point of view. So I started doing this workshop in an organization for CEO, for teams, and so on. And a friend of mine, which is a manager in education, asked me, "Okay, Max, we are an organization too. You must come to us and explain what's happening in the AI." So I started to study what and how AI can apply to education. I had an experience with Khan Academy for my kids when they needed some help in the past. So I started to study Camigo, which is the AI of Khan Academy. And I started to approach my guru, which is Itam Malik, that says essentially that we have to review the role of the teacher with AI. The teacher must be the person that help the students to get motivated on study, that gives the enthusiasm on an argument, on a topic, not only the person that transfers some knowledge from his head to the head of the student.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI can assist this process, tutoring or even coaching the student 24 hours per 7, assistant, always ready.
And are you seeing the deployment of such technology across the Italian school landscape?
I see a lot of resistance
Yeah.
because teachers think that AI will disrupt them. I don't think so, but they are not understanding. The point is between know and understand. They know some things, teachers, but they are not fully understanding this technology. I think this technology is particularly hard because of understanding. People must understand the capabilities before decide if it is bad or not. Now there is a lot of resistance because of fear around it.
You're 100% right. I think it's so interesting that you're saying that because we know we have the technology, but now it's the change management, it's the mindset, it's the implementation of the tech. So what I love about your journey is that you've crossed, if I say this correctly, you've crossed from being a software engineer to being a founder to being acquired to then being an investor, and now you are actually training. So you're sharing your knowledge in a certain way, but you're also running a very interesting initiative using AI and energy renewables via Greenride. Can you tell us a little bit about Greenride?
Yeah, Greenride is a startup that my historical business partner, Massimo, made 3 years ago. The idea to connect bikes to the cloud. We have connected cars, but we don't have a lot of connected e-bikes with one purpose, that is to provide solution to company, to tourism structure, or to bike producer to better maintain the bikes. Bikes have different problems from cars in maintenance, but also to provide the businesses with an easy way to give e-bikes to their workers or bike to work, for example, or to try to switch from doing things with the cars, with other kind of vehicles, and try to do it with bikes. That gives 2 or 3 advantages. One is health. If you cycle, you are healthy. The other is from the ecological impact, because we save a lot of carbon. And the third point is about the correct usage of the space that we have that are invaded by cars and other motor vehicles. So reducing them on the landscape has a benefit for everybody. So it's very important change management that we do. And behind this, we are building a lot of AI process that help the company to be aware of this impact. So we calculate the carbon footprint saving. For example, we put it on a blockchain, and then we create the contents using AI that our customers can review, but we help them communicating this transition in mobility that they are starting. So for example, a company takes 30, 40, 50 bikes, they know nothing about the bike world. So we create content every month, every 3 weeks, or when there is an event about their e-bikes. For example, they reached the first 1,000 kilometer made with e-bikes. And we, thanks to AI, are able to create customized content with their tone of voice, with their way to talk, that they can use internally or externally if they want, understanding the journey of e-bike mobility.
Oh, noted. That is very interesting. I was going to ask the multi-million-dollar question if you were using generative AI and where, but now you've already answered that. I think this is amazing, and very useful as we transition anyway to a world that's trying to be more climate aware. Where else do you see opportunities for AI to make a difference in the energy sector?
So now I have to classify AI because the hype is on generative AI. On the energy sector side, generative AI can be helpful at the end of the process, but the whole world is behind algorithm and classical machine learning and deep learning processes. So how can it help? It can help in several ways. For example, in forecasting the needs of the company or of the private people of energy, providing the right source, and so balancing the grid for the renewable. Or there is a practical example here in Italy. A friend of mine founded a company that buys and sell energy using only AI. So create a more efficient trading, balancing always the renewable sources. So he created a whole company around AI for energy.
That is so interesting. It's a new marketplace for energy powered by AI.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's very interesting. And that could be a global rollout, making energy sharing completely different in the future as well. Where do you see challenges, though, Massimiliano? You're now speaking with people across Italy, probably globally as well. And I know both you and we've been in the space for a while, and sometimes you see all the opportunities, but there's also that fine line between opportunity and challenges that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And where do you see most of those challenges as it relates to either machine learning, skills development, or AI at large?
Okay, we have 10 hours, right, to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
So the first, maybe to be very easy, is that we must be aware that at the end, artificial intelligence is software, and it requires all the compliancy and all the problems that we face with normal software. So once you have understood, you have to think about a software implementation problem. What I mean that there are boring parts. I mean there are risks behind the execution, or the good or bad execution of the software. You have to be legal compliant and so on. So the process can be very, very long. People expect results immediately. They think that AI will solve all their problems. They put AI all over, spraying in their old company AI just to tell they are using AI, but not understanding. Not only the CEO, but also the people that is using that thinks they have to use AI, but they don't know why. So sometimes AI is solution finding problems. It's not a solution that solves certain clear problems. We are in this discovery stage. Another point is that there can be instrumental or cognitive delegation to tools. If we delegate in an instrumental way, we are simply using a tool to perform a task that we are in control of. If we delegate the cognitive part, if we delegate the reasoning, if we delegate the decision to tools like AI, we will lose something. We will lose the capability to understand in the time. And so I see in the long term, this can be a problem because we may have people that is not thinking and is delegating thinking.
This is such a wonderful summation. And as you are speaking, I can see the two different areas. They're quite binary in a way. And you're right, this cognitive process-oriented thinking, computational thinking, where humans are still good and we should be working with our machines to get better, not to always delegate that task. But even going back before that a few steps, you mentioned something really interesting. A lot of people say, okay, we're working with artificial intelligence, we're doing it, but even at top level, executive level, we see that CEO doesn't understand. So how does it even trickle down into the organization? And that is a real challenge. The process required to successfully implement artificial intelligence, where, when, how, and perhaps most importantly, why. So your work has spanned such interesting spaces. What can we expect to see from you in the future?
One project I'm working on is my second book. The first one was a novel about AI, just to be open to everybody to read. Now I'm writing a practical manual for CEO for implementing, for hiring AI in the organization. Because what I think is that
very cool.
They don't have to implement or buy AI. They have to hire, because, generative AI, especially if you treat him as a human, it works better. And I use the term hire to let the entrepreneurs and the manager understand that it's something new. It's not a human, it's not a software, it's something in the middle. So the title of the job is just to make them think about how they have to approach AI, which level of curiosity and deep they need to use before start. So in September, the book will be published in Italy, and then hopefully also in other parts of the world, because I'm writing it in English.
That's wonderful, Massimiliano. So this was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this. I want to make sure that we get very clear. People can buy your upcoming book, which sounds extremely practical, like a very useful resource for CEOs. And you're right, AI is a teammate. It's not just a technology. So I love what you're saying there. People can get in touch with you for the book, but also the training. Is that something that is that something people should get in touch with you about?
Yeah, for sure. So I do a lot of workshop in this period, especially in Italy and also in all around Europe
Mm-hmm.
with the Viale Institute I'm working with, but also alone. They can reach me on my blog, which is glimpse.blog as a address, or on LinkedIn. Those are the channels I use more. And on Glimpse blog, I also share my thoughts about AI and some practical tips sometimes.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. We will make sure to include all those links. And to all the listeners, you've heard Massimiliano's journey from software engineer to founder to somebody who got a business sold to an investor and now working on getting AI into the hands in practical ways of people around the world. You've worked in education, you're working in social impact through energy as well. And honestly, Massimiliano, it's been such a pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and all your experience as well.
Thank you very much, Jos, and enjoy AI responsibly, as I like to say.
I love that. That is awesome. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Jos.
Bye. A huge thank you to both of our guests. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Making Sense of AI. We hope you enjoyed listening and that it's given you valuable insights. If you found today's discussion enlightening, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. This podcast was brought to you by Turner and Binova AI. To deploy AI at your business today, reach out now via the links in the description or directly on LinkedIn. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep on making sense of AI. Goodbye for now.